Welcome to Galactic Grandmother Heart to Heart. My name is April, and my special guest today is Matthew Aaron Mourian. Matthew is an author. He wrote Remember Your Mission, which I just finished. He is a full-time psychic. He's an energy worker. He has a unique ability to look inside your body and really perceive what's going on with your organs, your chakras, your meridians. So, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time, Matthew.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. It's truly an honor. The capsule phrases, they are essentially a series of phrases, from my understanding, is a language that was present on the Earth plane in what many would call a pre-Lumerian timeline, in which humans were in a different physical makeup. Rudolf Steiner talks about the form that humans were in the Lemurian epoch. And at that stage on Earth, the human body was made of a very different type of matter. It was much less dense. It was much more full of light and vibration. Not that it isn't in this day and age, it's just from a very, very different density. And one of the primary methods that we began to use during those timelines or those stages of existence was the harmonizing and the activating of channels within the body, not through physicality, but through vibrations that we would send in. What I was shown in some of the processes of experiencing them was that there was even places where we would gather and use these phrases, and it would create changes within the physical environment. Now, the kicker is, on those timelines, it was not necessarily a vocal modality. It was not a thing where we would go around doing Ava me. It was an instantaneous telepathic vibration that was emitted from the physicality of the body rather than the voice. And so when I began to experience the what I believe to be a group of legitimate flesh and blood extraterrestrial beings, that gave me an experience in which I observed them using these phrases. And that's important to mention. The capsule phrase modality is essentially a series of commands that, when given to the non-physical body, create a very specific effect, and it's dilation. That's literally what it is, and that's only what it does. That effect of dilation causes channels and organs and chakras to open up, just like your eyes will dilate in the dark. The process of dilation is probably, by my understanding, one of the most direct methods to harmonize the layers of the non-physical body, because it allows, imagine when a river is tightly restricted and then we open it up and remove the dam, and it's like water just flows all the way through it. And so the capsule phrases allow us to begin to harmonize those layers of the body. And it's just like learning a language. The more you say it, the more you use them, the more it takes root within your being. And I've just noticed that through the thousands of people we've worked with. And I only started using them, I think that was like 2019 or 2020. So it was after I had been doing this work for a while. But the after effect is that, like I just said, we begin to perceive intuition differently. And you can literally use those with areas in your body. And over time, it's like you will grow to new understandings. And honestly, all kinds of crazy things happen. But I'll stop there. I can go on, but
I've just started to go through the list.
oh, cool. Yeah, yeah.
I saved the image
Yeah, thank you.
and try and say it.
It's really smart.
I think it's something I want to keep doing every day. Would you recommend that?
Honestly, there are people that have emailed me like over a year after doing a session. Honestly, there's been multiple people now, and they're like, "Hey, I just want you to know I'm still using those phrases. I'm starting to use them with my." One lady was like, "I'm using them with my kids," and we did a meditation, and my kid, like, it was like Sunday school or something, and I was like, "What? Oh my God!" It's like, so I have verifiably received number of messages from people that are like, "Hey, I'm still using these and we work." There was even a guy, and I don't know what channel this was now, because I've never been a person to flaunt like reviews, which I probably should do. But I remember there was a guy that had a channel, and he was like, "I learned this phrase from this guy Matthew, and it's for the third eye." And he made a video reviewing the capsule phrase "Ava me," which is literally creates dilation of your third eye. I was like, "Whoa, you actually took it and ran with it."
Is it okay to run through the whole list?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes.
Because that's
Perfect.
what I was doing.
Oh
I
yeah.
would hate to think I was supposed to concentrate on
Oh
one.
no, that's actually perfect. I'll tell you specifically what we do in a clearing session. It's funny because we're in the process of doing a chakra activation class right now, literally, where I'm teaching people how to do this every Sunday. I do a thing, or at least what I've noticed within the sessions is, it's just a term, I call it threading the needle through a person's body. As long as you understand your entry points, and there's so many entry points in the in the non-physical body, but I would recommend using all of them because what it'll do is it will create a vibration or a dilation of each of those energy centers. And I usually start at the bottom because one thing I've learned over the years is that denser energies, thought forms, toxic, non-physical frequencies in the body are very responsive to what we would call the fundamentals of gravity, even if it's a non-physical thing. And what I've learned just through trial and error was that if you really want to help energy drain out of the body, open up the space underneath people's feet. So we start with the Earth Star chakra because I'm like, well, that's the one underneath the feet. This was literally my thinking when I started, and I would like receive these transmissions from spirit, and I was like, okay, I need to find an entry. Okay, so the entry, oh, I guess bottom of the feet. And so what I've learned is that we start with the bottom and then we work our way up to the top. But there's a lot of times in which I've used these in sessions and we'll start in a different place. And so sometimes we'll start at the top of the head, but I would say use whatever you feel guided. There's really no wrong order. I even experimented for a time with changing the phonetic structure of the phrases that I had received. And I will say, I think that was one, not mistake, but it was an experience that I had where I was like, that doesn't seem to work. And what I was shown within it was that once again, it was reinforced that this is a language that you are using. And you wouldn't go to someone and say, I'll just, like, hello, my name is, this. You would go to them and say, my hello name is, you know what I mean? It's almost like you would change the sentence of the structure of the sentence and the effect would change. And so what I learned is, well, there is a kind of way in which we'll hold the vibration, but it doesn't matter which one you use. And what I've even noticed is even if you don't know the proper capsule phrase, let's say, for example, Earth Star Chakra, the one that we use, it goes Ma, Ru, Va. And so let's say even if you didn't know that Maru Va was for lower chakras, you can still use it, let's say for something like your heart chakra, liver chakra, spleen chakra, and it will still create a dilation effect. But what I've noticed over the years is that if you're able to be very specific with certain ones, you'll get a much greater result out of it. And for some people, honestly, it's been legendary and life-changing, like for real. And for other people, it's been like, yeah, that was cool. Anyway, I mean, you're going to get both of that all across the spectrum doing this work. So anyway, I will wrap up with saying, I feel as long as you're willing to experiment with them and continue to use it, it's one of the best things you can do. And I guess lastly, I even discovered later on that it's part of an actual language that was used, I believe it was in Zimbabwe, known as Shona. That some of the words within the capsule phrases are from a real language that I had never heard of until I did them on YouTube and somebody wrote to me going, hey, you're using some words from our language. It's called Shona. And I was like, I went and looked it up. And guess who used that language? These tribesmen in Africa. And those were the literal beings that showed up in my out of body experience. So it was
Wow.
like spirit linked it all together in this way that I remember reading it and I just sat there one day. I was like, I just sat there
Yeah.
and cried, going, that's a real language, actually used by people that look exactly like the ones that came into my internal realm. And so, anyway, it's a wild phenomenon.
I was trying to pronounce the words according to the way it looks. Is pronunciation important?
That's a very smart question. I don't know. I believe that our intention is the most important thing. And I think that I give people direct authorization for those that do sessions with me. And, maybe we said this in yours, maybe not, but I tell people, like, you have authorization to take every technique that I use in this and literally copy it, make it your own, flip it around, do it in your way. And what I understand from that, because it's been so deeply programmed into me since doing this work, that honestly, intention is the most powerful force within anything. Even if you had never heard of a capsule phrase, even if that was never a function in your life and you had no knowledge of it, the reality is just based on your intention alone and your willingness to be of service, you're going to have an effect. I think that, we could use them specifically and you can bring in very specific tools and create much more specialized, precise reaction in the body. But even then, there's going to be some people, and this is maybe kind of a bizarre thing to say after all this talk. what I've noticed in sessions is a lot of times the majority of the work is done before we even begin that meditative process. It's like with the whole journey has already come, and what we do in the end is more like wrapping it all up
Mhm.
in a weird way. So even if you use them wrong, I think the fact that you're willing to engage in it and say, I understand this is a tool to help me develop the spiritual elements of my body and to allow me to release negativity. I think just holding on to it that way and using it the best way you can is the only real requirement. In fact, they even say that in the law of one, the only requirement to be of service is the desire to be of service. That's it. It's
Yeah,
like that's all you need. And so anyway,
perfect.
yeah.
I think that the capsule phrases are important for spiritual growth. So
Catalyst.
I have just loved spending time with you.
Yeah, you too.
You are such a wealth of information. Thank you so much for your time. You have a wonderful day.
You too.
I'll talk to you soon.
Cool. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.